The military bureaucracy, the national security community, they look for candidates for president and ultimately commanders-in-chief who they can relate to, who they know will give them an honest shake, who they have a decent or a good sense of how that person would act if they were in the White House and in the Oval Office. Hillary Clinton, all the people I talk to, whether they like her or not, they know what they're getting.
Sure.
With Donald Trump, it is such an unknown. And the unknown skews toward, I mean, if it's going to be anything, they fear the worst given all the comments and the things that he has said so far.
And you said some of the people you spoke with said that they would even go as far as resigning if Trump actually became their commander-in-chief.
Right, and no one signs up for the Marines, the Army, for any sort of career in the military or in intelligence to resign. You sign up to serve your country, you swear an oath to protect and defend the U.S. Constitution, but if you're asked to carry out an order, if an order comes down the chain of command that is illegal, waterboarding is illegal, a heck of a lot worse, I'm editing that slightly, than waterboarding is illegal. Something Donald Trump has also advocated, attacking the families of suspected terrorists would be illegal. And so I'm talking to folks who work in these circles, and they're saying, hey, if that happened, I mean, we literally have to make a decision. Do we do something we think might be illegal, or do we resign our commission? Do we resign our post? And that's something they never thought they'd have to think about and to contemplate. But in the case of Donald Trump, they are.
How much respect do you think Donald Trump has for the military, talking to the sources you did for this piece? I saw that you quoted a retired Special Forces Commander, Michael Waltz, in your article, and he called Donald Trump a draft dodger. Trump did go to a military school, but he did not serve in Vietnam, even though he had the wherewithal to call John McCain or say that he was not a war hero when he was captured as a POW in the Vietnam War. Tell us a little bit about that and how much respect they believe Trump actually has for the military.
Right, and there's a companion ad to the TV spot with Michael Waltz that you just mentioned, and that was with a Vietnam veteran who said that Donald Trump's comment that John McCain wasn't really a war hero because he'd been captured was the most, quote, infuriating comment he'd ever heard from a presidential candidate in his lifetime. This is an older gentleman. Donald Trump has done what a lot of candidates, and more than a lot of candidates, sort of surrounding himself with veterans. He skipped a debate one time and instead had a supposed benefit event for veterans, or the proceeds of an event went to veterans. So he has spoken, paid lip service to the men and women who served the country. But if you look at his record, as I did in this piece, the things he said, multiple deferments, educational and medical, to avoid serving in the Vietnam War, he's mocked the military, he's demonstrated a complete lack of understanding of the military. He said in an interview with the shock jock Howard Stern in the 90s that his personal life, I'll put it that way, in New York, in the 70s and 80s, and basically avoiding sexually transmitted diseases was his, quote, personal Vietnam.
Yeah.
And this was like a great war. And I've awkward even bringing this up, but these are the kinds of things that people in the Pentagon, people in the State Department, and people who serve around the world look at and hear when they see Donald Trump out there.